had to get a writing degree to learn this about writing. 2 years of late nights writing endless drafts and sitting in classrooms with authors that have been in the New York Times bestsellers and gained national awards for their writing, all to understand what it takes to take writing seriously. It's not about talent or inspiration, it's about the habits that we build, the mindset that we develop, and the discipline that it takes to keep going when it feels impossible. Hi friends, my name is Mohammed and I'm a writer, and in this channel we explore habits and tools that will help us fit writing and reading into our life so we can tell our story, stay creative, clear-minded, and inspired. And in this video I want to share 7 tips that will help you take writing more seriously this year and make it a year of writing. And tip number 1 is creating a writing schedule. This is the most important part about writing, is to pick a time that works for you, whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon or later in the evening, and protect it by any means possible. I know Tim Ferriss, someone who wrote a few books, the author of the 4-Hour Work Week, he says that he only can write during when his social time, when his social circle is asleep. So that's later in the evening or early in the morning. And I remember a time before I became a father and before the busy life that I have right now, when I used to wake up an hour before I go to work and I would write, and then I would make breakfast and head to the train station to go downtown to work. By now my life looks a little bit different. I have to wake up and prepare to go to work, prepare my daughter and her food to go to school, and then drop her off and do all this thing before I can get to work. So waking up a little bit earlier has become more challenging. So what I do, and instead of waking up earlier, I write during my lunch hour. And this came after a struggle of trying to work in the morning and in the evening, which in the evening I just don't have energy after a long day of work. The writing quality is not there, my attention span is not there, I'm distracted, I don't even want to do it, it's not enjoyable, and it's just hard. But then I figured if I can write part of my lunch hour, which is during the midday, if I can take part of it and just write for a few focused, undistracted minutes, then something will happen. The habit will stick. And it did. My friends and I decided to start this thing we call the midday writing group, where we met every day at 1 o'clock, sometimes depending on the season at 12, and we just wrote for 40 minutes and focused, undistracted. We would get on a Zoom call and say hi, no introductions or small talk, and just writing. And just the accountability of clicking on a link, of getting into the Zoom call, having the screen be open in front of me while I am working, it held me accountable. And the days that I didn't make it, I made it a sort of debt of honor. If I didn't make it at 1 because of a meeting or anything else, I wrote later in the evening. And so recently I actually opened up this midday writing group for everyone. So I shared it in my newsletter. If you haven't signed up, you should sign up, and you can actually sign up. I'll leave the link below. This is mainly for people who are busy, they have a 9 to 5, maybe you have children and during midday hours you are at home and the children are in school. This is perfect for you. Or maybe you are a student and this is the time that you usually take lunch, or you are on a break from classes and you want to dedicate some time to write. If you're interested, use the link in the description below, sign up, and then you will get the link to the Zoom call or the Zoom meeting, and you can join today if you're watching this in the morning, or tomorrow if you are watching it later at night. Tip number 2 is set clear, achievable goals. One time I read that Stephen King, I think he writes maybe 1,000 to 2,000 words a day. It could be a little bit more than that, but I read how much he would write every day, and I decided this is going to be my daily goal when I sit and write. And it was impossible because I did not have the amount of time that Stephen King had. I'm not as skilled as good of a writer as he is, so I sort of burned myself out and I had to take some steps back. And you have to treat this based on how long have you been off from writing. So for example, if you have been off for a very long time, then decide, all right, I'm gonna get back to writing and I will write 100 words. This also can be, just as a side note, can be decided by amount of time. So if you can, or you think you can sit and write for 10 minutes or for 15 minutes or for 30 minutes, then downscale it and write half or even less than what you think you can write for. Let me stick to the original example so this can be clearer. If you just take it by words measure and you think you can sit down and write maybe 500 words, then instead of for the first time after taking a long break of writing 500 words, just write 200 or even 100 words. But I personally prefer using time as opposed to words, because I do find myself when I have a writing word count or a goal for word count, so I would write more dialogue because it's easier, so that I can have a lot more filler words and things that sort of like don't really shape the story or give it much meaning. It's sort of like a cheat code of like reaching that goal, so that I don't feel bad about not achieving it. And this is why I just stuck to the time as opposed to words, because I just don't want to force writing myself or force myself into writing if the writing is not there, because at the end of the day the quality does matter more than the quantity. So if you think you can sit for 30 minutes and write after a long break, then sit for that very first time for 10 minutes and then increase it over amount of weeks or days. So 10 minutes the first day, 15 minutes the second day, maybe stick with 15 minutes for 3-4 days, then increase it to 20. And then after you get or arrive at a time where you think this can be done, or I can do this on a daily basis. For me, I cannot write more than 45 minutes or 40 minutes because I need my lunch, and then I take my lunch, it is part of my lunch break. So writing more than that then becomes a hassle, or I have to work a lot harder to just make it happen. And to be honest, writing for 40 minutes is way better than not writing at all. Tip number 3 is create a distraction-free environment for you to write. I think the enemy of all writers is our phones, our tablets, the things that we have around us that give us notifications, that takes us away from the page. And sometimes it's in the laptop itself or in the device that we use to write, where notifications come from the sides and distract us from that flow state that we enter after starting to write for a short while. And most of us are too busy to let go of that small window of time that we have dedicated for writing, because we know that it's not gonna come again on that same day. We just have to try the next day. So protect it. Make sure your phone is off, your notifications on your laptop, if you are using the laptop, are off, and you're not distracted by your outside environment. For me, because I write while I'm at work, sometimes in order for me to get just a clear undistracted environment, and instead of writing from my desk, I will take a laptop and go to another floor and write there. I mean, often during lunch hour, everybody's already at lunch, so I'm free to write on my desk. But if it means for me to go on another floor, I will go to another floor. And if the weather was nice and it means for me to step outside, I will step outside. So protect that time. Make sure there's nothing around you that is distracting you. Make sure all your devices that are calling for your attention are off. The fourth tip is to read like a writer. Make it a commitment that this year that you are not only reading for entertainment, you are reading to acknowledge or understand how other people are achieving the type of writing that they are achieving, and where do you want your writing to go. And reading like a writer doesn't mean reading slower, but reading with the mindset of the writer that have written the book that you are reading. One powerful thing that you can do while reading the next book or the book that you are reading right now is to think about the release of information that the writer have decided to use from the beginning. The beginnings are the most important parts of the book, of the story. So understand the story and what is it about, and then how the author decided to release information to get you to be hooked to the story itself. If you are reading a non-fiction book, then think about the structure. What is the hook of the book in the beginning, and what is the structure of the book? Because in non-fiction, the most important part of writing the book is giving it a structure where it can land or stay in people's head for as long as possible. Dorothea Brand, the author of Becoming a Writer, she actually suggests that aspiring writers should read the book or the novel for the first time very quickly, just for entertainment purposes, and then actually right after to read it again with the writer perspective or with the writer's lens. And this is the second time you are underlining, you are circling, you are highlighting, you are taking notes in the margins or on another notebook in order for you to understand the book much deeper than the story itself. You want to understand it, or you want to get a sort of view of the writer perspective themselves. And she argues if you do this often enough, the skill will develop so much so that when you are reading for the very first time, it's as if you are reading the book twice. You will just develop that writer sense or that writer lens from the first reading. Tip number 5 is to stop overthinking first drafts. If you think that you will get the story right from the first time you write it, then you are delusional. And it happens to some writers, but once in a lifetime. Most of us write the first draft with a lot of mistakes, with a lot of holes, because it is a draft where you are discovering the story, you are discovering the relationship to the subject matter, you are discovering the characters, their tone, their personalities, what makes them tick, what they like, what they don't like. And the more drafts you go through within a particular story, the clearer and the more deep or depth it will have in order for you to write that final one, that where you say, all right, I have worked on this for long enough and it is time to send it out for publication, or it's time for me to move on to another project. So if you decide this year to get back to writing and you are writing your first story after a long period of time, do not overthink it. Just write the story as fast as possible, as soon as possible. And after you have 7, 8, 9, 10 pages, then, and the story feels complete, then you can go back and redraft it or rewrite it and redo the whole thing, and pay attention to the sentences and to the voice and to the tone and the cadence of the story. In the beginning, you are just discovering the story. Anne Lamott, in her book Bird by Bird, calls them shitty first drafts for a reason, because they are the drafts that you use as a foundation for you to build the actual thing. So take them lightly, be kind to yourself, be fast when you are writing them, because the actual writing happens in the edit, not in the discovery. Tip number 6 is find a support group or a support system. You need a group of writers that are passionate about writing and reading just like you, in order for you to share your work with them and give you feedback on it, and where you can also receive their work and give them feedback on them. After I got my master's degree in creative writing, just finding that group was the most valuable thing that I got out of the 2 years. It's a group of people who are kind enough to read my work and make it better, just like I am, or just like it is my goal to read the work and make it better. And this might take a little bit of work. These writing groups does not come easily. Some of us, for example, I'm an immigrant. Most of my friends and my social circle are engineers, doctors, lawyers, or everything that is not a writer. So I've never had a support group that really encouraged me to write or read my stories and gave me feedback. And it wasn't until I got married and I shared my work with my wife, who gave me feedback on it, that I really had someone that read my work. Before that, no one did, not even my own siblings. And if you have a similar experience, it is okay. And here is how you can change it. You can find this writing group in events that you can attend, and this might take a few awkward conversations. It can come in a form of joining or finding Facebook groups, or DMing people on Instagram that you have been following for a while. It can also mean signing up for a workshop that you pay for, and in there, if you are divided into groups, or you share your work and you like a particular feedback from a group of people, or you feel like their energy matches your energy, then you reach out to them and you try to connect beyond the workshop session. So it takes time, it takes money, it takes a little bit of awkward conversations, but trust me, it will transform, it will change your writing forever. And these people are gonna become long-term, long-life friends. You're going to be in a journey together to becoming the writers that you expect yourself to be, and you're gonna help each other grow and elevate the writing itself. The last tip is celebrating small wins, and this especially if you have taken a long break from writing and now you're getting back into it, and if you've written for like 3 or 4 days consecutively, treat yourself into a nice meal or an ice cream or whatever that you enjoy, to give your brain that reward pathway in order for you to be able to do it over and over. And whether we like it or not, we are creatures that are innately built on action and reward. I mean, this is why we enjoy when our posts are like, when we have views on videos, is because they are a sense of reward for the work that we have done, whether it's posting, working on a video, whatever the case might be. So use that, use your human side in order for you to build that writing habit. And don't take small achievements for granted, even if it is writing 100 words a day. If you write 100 words a day for a whole year, that's 36,500 words. That's half of a novel. This can be a novella. I mean, this is multiple short stories, so don't take them for granted. Did I do the math right? I'm not sure if I did the math right. One way I used to do it, and this was a quick reward that gave me sort of like a satisfaction after every writing session, I created a schedule where I would have the month, which is like, for example, November, December, January, whatever the month is, and then the days 1 to all the way up to 31st, and then the goal was writing session, and then I would check off the box next to the day or under the day for that particular day. If I wrote, I would put a checkbox. That's it. If I didn't write, I would put an X. And then the more checkboxes I have consecutively, the better I felt about just my writing in general. Whether my writing was going well or not, whether I was making advancement on the story or not, the fact that I was making time to sit down and write every single day was good enough. And I think that's a better approach than agonizing over the writing. Just make sure the habit is built, make sure that you return there over and over again, and the longer you last, the more stamina you have, and the more edits you will make, the better stories and sentences and writing you will achieve. So as a first step, you can take inventory of the things that prevent you from writing, and then tackle them one by one. Do not overwhelm yourself. Make sure that you're just dedicating a small amount of time every day for you to write, and just focus on the writing session. And it goes without saying, the most important to do this year and every year is write. If you enjoyed this video, then you will probably enjoy my video on how I stopped wasting my evening time and got more done right here. Click it. It might be the time that will be allowed for you, or that will allow you for you to write. Watch it here. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and keep writing.